We did it. We've teamed up, and together we've created something special. We are the Idaho Underground Sports Network, and we're changing the game. We're covering Idaho high school sports in a way that you haven't seen before. Together, we'll be providing weekly breakdowns and recaps while helping uncover Idaho's top talents at a deeper level. Trust us, you want to be part of this. Boise Sports Talk, EBC Media, and the Gametime Guru bring you Gym Session. Let's get to work. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of Gym Session. My name is Shane Larson, also known as the Gametime Guru here on the Idaho Underground Sports Network. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you're following us on Instagram at Idaho Underground Sports. That's where we're providing all the content and the game updates and everything. So make sure you guys are over there. Make sure you tune in over there too. Like, follow the page and stay active on it, because we will be doing a raffle. We have a couple different raffles that we're going to be putting out there for everybody. So if you want to take part of that, there's some cool things. That's all I got to say. We got some stuff coming from the College of Idaho basketball, program. We've got some stuff coming from T3, their sports facility, and even a local company for Modern Barbecue Supply. They're coming over to help us out with the part of the raffle. If you guys like anything to do with like grilling and stuff like that, we'd like to work with the local company. So stay tuned for some more stuff coming on the raffle. And as always, we appreciate everybody who's subscribed to our channel here on YouTube. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. That's the biggest way of growing this, is if just people share this out to others. We're trying to come get you guys some information on the sports front, the high school sports front here in the state of Idaho. And that's what we're doing on a weekly basis. So joining me today, I like having these conversations with different coaches across the valley. We're going to try to do more of that here on the show as we move forward with this platform. But I have a good friend of mine from the high school days, but our friendship kind of grew a little bit more after that. And he's now the head coach of the Capital Girls basketball program. His name is Coach Matt Creech. Coach Creech, thank you for joining us and being willing to share some stuff with us today, man.
I appreciate you having me on. It was fun the first time I got to be on here with you on your podcast, so I'm excited to do it again with you.
Oh, sorry, there, it just froze up on me a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to have you with us, man. Here's a question, man. So a lot of people don't know your story, so I'm trying to name the 5A Coach of the Year when you were coaching at Meridian, if I'm not mistaken. And then, a couple of things just shifted in the professional world as far as the coaching side of things, and you were helping on the club side of things. And now you have another opportunity to coach girls basketball over at Capital and take over a program that was kind of hurting. So in between the time you were coaching at Meridian until now, where you're back into the coaching side of things for the high school side, what have you felt has been the biggest growth point for you in your coaching experience?
Well, the biggest thing for me was, right out of high school, I jumped right into coaching at Meridian. So going to Meridian High, and then jumping right into coaching. You kind of get tunnel vision, and you kind of just learn from the people that you've been around, and the culture that was something you've just always been around, being a student there, and then straight into coaching. So for me, when I left Meridian, it was a great opportunity for me to try to expand my knowledge and just understanding of what other people are doing. So I was very fortunate to gain some friendships with some coaches, specifically Cody Pickett, coaching against each other when he was with the girls at Eagle. And then when he took over the boys program, just an opportunity to, learn from someone who's had a ton of success, done in a different way. His philosophy is different than mine, but it was good to learn a different, aspect of how he did things, what worked, what didn't, and then really just try to mold my coaching style and just kind of grow and be better. So the next time I had an opportunity to coach high school ball, I was just going to be that much better of a coach. I feel like I did a pretty good job during my time Meridian, but there's definitely things looking back, you're younger and you're always wiser as you get older, and you can hindsight, so it was good for me to just try to expand my knowledge in other areas. And, you don't know what you don't know until you walk out the door and see other things. And for me, being at Meridian for so long, I never had that opportunity. So it was cool to kind of learn that from other people.
Absolutely. And Pickett's a good one to learn from. We had him on the show last year as he's done amazing things, not only with the girls side of Eagle High School, but now with the guys. He's done a great job building that program over there. He's a good coach to learn from. So it's cool to see that you had the friendship and the mentorship with him. And, you go over to Capital. let's just call it what it is. Capital's girls program, has been struggling, and they struggle a lot. You're coming over there, and part of what I've experienced, and I don't have nearly the coaching pedigree that you do. Like, you've got the experience and all this stuff, but what I've experienced in my short time coaching is that a lot of kids don't understand what it's like to win. Girls and guys, right? They don't know what it's like to win. And some of them come from a losing culture, and I mean that respectfully, but that's just the reality. There's very few elite programs across the state of Idaho, and so a lot of kids just don't have the opportunity to be inside of a winning culture. And so I wanted to ask you about that, if you've noticed anything in like what you can do as a coach and what you have done specifically with Capital Girls to help instill the winning culture and the winning attitude with these young girls.
Yeah, and I think, the misconception is, you just change the playbook and you work on shooting and ball handling and everything's fixed, when the reality is there's so much more to it than that. There's that winning culture, that winning attitude of, understanding, the commitment that's required, the work that you got to put in, and then just going through the battles and understanding, like, especially with basketball, it's such a game of runs. You got these runs, highs and lows, and understanding how to, play through those things, and just little details. There's so many things in basketball that don't show up on the stat sheet that have to be taken care of. And so that's the biggest thing. And with this group, they've said, I love my girls that I've been coaching here at Capital since I got hired back in late March. They've said all the right things. They've done all the right things. They're very receptive to the coaching. And honestly, for us, it's easy to talk about wins and losses, right? Everyone wants to win, but the reality is if you just focus on the end result, then you're not taking care of your business. And so for us, that's the challenge every day, is the little details, making sure, are we checking up on our team? Are we making sure that everyone's in the right frame of mind? Are they ready to give 100% every single day? Are they ready to do the little things? Are they diving on the floor for loose balls? Are they giving girls high fives? Are they encouraging their their teammates? And that's the stuff that makes the biggest difference, because the reality is you're going to lose some games, and that's part of the process. But how do you respond to those things? How do you, continue to move forward? I know it's cliche, the trust the process thing, but it's important. And obviously I think you can't really use that. Everyone uses trust the process now, but for us, it's all in the details. And, we tell our girls there's two things you can control every day, which is your attitude and your effort. You control those two things, you're going to get better, you're going to improve. And for us, that's all, we're going to play our best basketball in January, February, not November.
Ooh, I like that. So speaking of your program, the girls that are over there and they're doing their thing. So, like, talk to us, give us some insight as to who we should be watching from the Capital Girls basketball program. I know you probably name every player, but are there like 2 or 3 players in particular that you think that the state, because sometimes, what happens, like, this is what happens, Coach, is that when a team hasn't had a winning culture for a while, like, people tend to forget about them, and that's across the board. I'm not just taking a shot at Capital Girls basketball. That's across the board for any like high school, collegiate, professional athletics. Like, if a team is not a winning team, a lot of people don't focus on them. So maybe there aren't a ton of people outside of Capital who know who we should be looking for, and that's what I want you to have an opportunity to do here, is share some of that. Who should we be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, absolutely. It's understandable. I think those better teams, teams that have had success, like your Timberlines and Boise's, for example, last couple of years, they get a lot of attention, and rightfully so. But, for us, I think Hannah Price, she's a senior guard for us. She was, I believe, our leading scorer last year as well. She's a 4-year kid. She's a do-it-all. She plays, she could play all 5 positions if I needed her to. Example, just this past Saturday, she had 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals. The girl just cleans up the stat sheet for us. If I need her to, she'll guard the best player. She's got to go get us buckets. She's a girl that is kind of a do-it-all. I think she gets slept on because the success hasn't been there. But, for us, when she's playing well, we're playing well. So she's one. I think for the most part, I think that's the one that everyone recognizes, because she was an honorable mention kid last year as a junior. And the other one is Saioa Sarria. She's a senior. She's our post. She's a 4-year girl. I think people maybe sleep on her just because the way she's utilized is a little different, and she's set a lot of good screens for kids and opened up other opportunities for other girls in the past. Whereas this year she's a big focus for us, and in my opinion, she could be the best. She's the best post player in the league. She's big, she's strong, she's got great footwork, she finishes around the rim. It's just for us getting her more touches and more opportunities. Again, this past Saturday, 15 points, 12 rebounds. I mean, that's a big time game for a high school girl. Super proud of her and her growth. She's already had 2 double-doubles in our 5 games. So that's another one. And I think she had a 19 rebound game last year as well. So from what I was looking back when I got hired on staff, so she's a girl who cleans up the boards and is going to take on a bigger role in terms of scoring and leading us from a defensive standpoint too. Because unlike previous years, there's not as many big, tall, dominant posts. So there's the chance for her to really, make her presence known and take advantage of some opportunities, and she's done that for us so far.
I dig that, man. That's awesome. Okay, so that's part of the whole point of this platform as well, as we're trying to uncover Idaho's hidden gems, right? And I think it's an opportunity for you to kind of show some of these hidden gems, and they might not necessarily be hidden, but for some people it might be. They're like, oh, okay, let's keep an eye on them. So that's kind of why I wanted to ask you that question. Now, what I really respect about what you've already done in a short time over there is at Capital, you even reached out to us. Like, you have different things that you're doing on behalf of the community for different causes and so forth. And a lot of the programs, they thrive on the support from the community. So how do you feel the support over at Capital has been since you've gotten there in regards to like the parents and the community that are around the program?
Oh, they've been great. It's been as smooth a transition as possible. I mean, I know, talking about parents is always a negative in coaching now because you always hear of the negative ones, but the parents have been super supportive. They've gone out and helped in every which way we've asked them to with regards to fundraising or helping take care of things for our kids. Pictures, we have so many things that we've done for our girls already this year that wouldn't have been possible without the parents, without the administration support at Capital. I'm very fortunate. Our principal and AD are very supportive and involved in athletics and want us to succeed. And so it's been awesome. I'm still getting to know the Capital community. Haven't been at Meridian for so long, and really the only place I coach other than the club scene and Eagle the last couple of years. I still have a lot to learn, but everyone wants to see Capital succeed in all sports, not just girls basketball, but everywhere. And so anyone's willing to help, and it's been great. So very fortunate, and we want to just give back as much as we can. I know, like I said, you mentioned we reached out. We had 3 girls in our program with diabetes, and so we had a diabetes awareness night just to try to raise some awareness and some funds. I don't have the final number yet, but we raised a couple $100 for the diabetes research. So really cool stuff, and the Capital community is very, very proud. There's a rich history there, so it's fun to be part of that. And my father actually went to Capital years ago, so it's kind of a cool little circle back. Obviously I coached at Meridian where I was from, and now I get to coach somewhere that my father was from. So it's nice to kind of come back and wear those colors, and family thing too. So
that's so cool. Capital, it's always been one of those schools. It's like, when Capital's thriving, it's just good for athletics here in the Valley, because Capital's kind of the pinnacle of Boise schools, so to speak. At least it's what it felt like to me. Like it just reminded, like the scoreboard in the gym, for example. And when I used to play Optimist football, before they made the Optimist fields, like the actual fields that are out there, we used to play at Capital High. Like we used to play until like that was all donated out there so we could go somewhere else. And so like I always had ties to Capital. 3-on-3 basketball tournaments have been held at Capital High School, and I've had to play there. Like I like Capital High. So it's got this, like, there's just a feel about Capital that's pretty solid. Now, tell me, Creech, as you got there, when you got chosen to be a coach, part of it, is picking your staff and making sure you're bringing people over there and so forth. So talk to us about that. With this being your first experience having to go over to a new program, it's your first time back. How did the whole, choosing of the staff, how did that come about? Explain that to us so the people that are listening kind of have an understanding.
It's hard to find good help. It is, and especially in high school sports, because it's not like we're getting paid a ton of money. It's a huge time commitment. Obviously, practices are usually at a kind of inconvenient time because they're usually right after school for the most part. It's hard to find people that, one, know basketball, and then 2, are willing to put that much time and effort. So I was very fortunate. I was able to keep a couple people that were on staff previously. A varsity assistant and my JV coach were on staff last year with the previous head coach. And they've been great. One works at the school, one's a Capital alum. So he bleeds Capital through and through. He's been a huge asset for me as I learn, the Capital, just the community and everything. So I've been able to lean on those 2, and then was fortunate enough to, find a sophomore coach who's overqualified to be our sophomore coach, to be honest. She's been great. And then I brought someone over with me from Meridian. Again, good help is hard to find. So when I got that job, he was one of the first ones I called, make sure that he came over with me, just so I'm a little bit of a control freak. I want my hands involved in everything. I think that's just kind of the way you have to be as a head coach, but still got to be able to trust to delegate out to people and have them handle some other things, because the reality is, as a head coach now, with all the responsibilities you have, you can't do it all. So I was fortunate to be able to have a couple people held over from the previous program's head coach, and brought in a couple more, and I'm really happy with my staff and where we sit right now. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I figured it's pretty tough. I don't think that's a lot of people don't really think about that. I don't think the casual fan just sits back and thinks about how a coach puts together their staff. But you have people that were on the previous staff, and then you have to gain their trust. But then you also have people that were with you, and it can sometimes it causes riffles, and sometimes it goes pretty smooth. So it's kind of interesting to hear from your perspective. Now, let's talk about this season so far for you guys. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks since y'all started for the girls season, and we want to hear about how things are going, Creech. So talk to us about the highs and the lows so far this season. What do you think so far?
I like where we're at. I mean, we've had some games that have been tough for us. We played, I think our schedule, we played 2 of the better teams, which is Boise Timberline. I think, the previews all came out and everyone had them at the top, and it was a nice kind of benchmark to see where we were in comparison to them. And we obviously had, based on how those games went, we have some work to do. And then, a couple other teams we played as well, just getting an opportunity to play, compete, and see what we look like. We're doing things a little differently than they've done in the past. And so they've responded well. We definitely have to continue to get better in a lot of different areas. But, being 5 games in, I like where we're at. We definitely have some work to do, and we're very fortunate with our schedule. We have a ton of practice time coming up in between games. I think we have 8 practices and only 2 games over the next couple of weeks, which is going to be huge for us to continue to install the things we need to install and make sure we're ready. But like I mentioned earlier, this is all about just kind of getting an idea of what our girls strengths, where weaknesses are. It's one thing to see in practice; it's another to see it and people in the stands and the scores actually being counted. So trying to figure those things out so we can make a stretch run there in January and February. So I like where we're at. We definitely have some work to do. Boise Timberline gave us a good punch in the mouth, and CUNA beat us as well earlier last week, and opened our eyes to some things that we need to improve upon, which was a good thing. So I know it's hard to lose games, but I've told our girls, it's not about the wins and losses right now. It's about how we can get better. So I'd rather lose in November than January. So that's where we're at right now.
100%, man. And, before we started recording this, we were talking about some college football. So I'll use that. I know, you can look all great during the season, but I'm a Buckeyes fan. Creech is a Michigan fan. And we're talking about that. Well, Ohio State lost at the wrong time. You want to be winning at that time in late November. Well, for football, you want to be winning late November, and that's what matters, right? That's what's going to get teams to the next level. So it's all about how are you progressing, or are you kind of staying stagnant, or are you, declining and whatever. And so as long as you're progressing, that's awesome. And it sounds like you guys are kind of starting to feel it, but it is early in the season. It's extremely early in the season. It's not just early, it's very, very early. So there's a lot of basketball to be played. I know it's hard for a lot of young athletes. So I want to ask you that, do you feel like the attitude of your girls is, because you said earlier, they're listening to you, they're saying the right things, they're doing the right things, they have been doing that since you got hired on. Do you feel like even with these losses, tough ones, like you said, you got some tough opponents to get matched up. That's it's going right into the gauntlet, and you got to start swinging. So do you feel like their attitudes have been pretty solid though? Do you like where you guys are at in regards to where the progression of these girls?
Yeah, I do. I mean, our girls aren't happy about the losses. They took them, harder than, they probably should in November. And, we challenged them to not, understand that it's part of the process, but we shouldn't go home being okay with it. The point of the game is to win. And I always say you started playing basketball to have fun, and it's hard to have fun when you're losing games. So let's try to focus on having fun and see where that takes us. And and they've worked hard. They've been watching a ton of film. They're asking all the right questions. They're doing everything they can to make up some of their deficiencies, and trying to get as competitive and as better as improve their game as fast as they can, so we can reach our goals. And I think coming from where the program was to where we want to be, it's probably not realistic, in year one, but we're not going to let that be an excuse. And for us, we want to play in February. We want to play at the Idaho Center, and that may just seem crazy to people when I say that, like Capital, go in there. But I think, especially with how games have already gone on this year, we've seen some teams beat some other teams that you wouldn't expect. I mean, the reality is anyone can beat anyone at any given time, and for us, it's just making sure that we're playing at our maximum efficiency at the right time. And that's something I learned from Kerry Kada, Bora. Yeah, is someone I respected a lot when I was playing, and then obviously as I got into coaching, that was his philosophy, and I'm kind of trying to take that same thing. We're going to just continue to grind, and even in the losses, let's find out what did we do well, what did we not, so we can get better and see where we go from there. So where we're at now, I'm very happy and I'm comfortable with our growth. I think we took a big step forward on Saturday against Ridgeview, which I think, and that program's had a tough time with coaches changing and stuff, but they got a new coach out there that's having them play really hard. It was a good test for us to do some things, and the girls responded well. And I like where we're at with 4 practices going this year, or into this week, going into our game on Friday against Nampa.
Heck yeah, man. No, it's awesome. It's cool to see. I was so stoked. Yeah, obviously I got personal ties to you and whatnot, but when the announcement was made and you could actually make it public to where like you were going over there, I was stoked for the Capital Girls program. I mean, I think a lot of people were, people who knew who you were, and we hadn't seen your name as a head coach outside of club basketball for a couple of years. We were like, there we go. That's girls basketball. We got Creech back in, and that feels like it's right now. It feels like we're in the right spot. We're moving forward in Idaho high school sports. So as we wrap it up, Coach, I want to know if you could give us some advice, the best advice you've gotten as a coach that you could possibly, share with others that are here listening to the podcast this week. So what's the best advice you have received as a coach in your career?
One of the things, actually, this may not seem significant, but it was for me. I coached 8-9 years before I got my first head. I took over the Meridian program, and CUNA had a head coach, Alex Jensen, who at the end of the year we played them in the district playing game, and they beat us at their place. And at the end, obviously, our season was over, and they were moving on. And I think they ended up that year actually surprising people and making it to the state tournament, which no one expected. I think they were like 9-12 on the season, and they made it to the state tournament. But he pulled me aside, and he'd been coaching for a while, and he said, have a coaching journal, write things down, let your thoughts, your review of the season. And so you can look back on things that you thought were important, and as your coaching career grows and improves, you can look back and, see how much you changed and what you focused on earlier on and what you didn't. And, if you can continue to, add to your, the things that are important to you. So that's been huge for me. He told me that, and I've been doing that. I have these journals that I write in, just type few notes, just things that are important to me or I think are important at the time, that I can look back and, remind myself of some of these things, especially in the moment, as you coached as well. Like sometimes you get a little too emotional and think of things in the worst way or in the best way. And it's nice to kind of look back and, reflect on some things so you can be better for the future. So that's the big thing for me, is just, not being satisfied with where I'm at, and, try to give my kids the best opportunity to get, as far as they can. So for me, it's reflecting and trying to get better every chance I get. So for me, it's been writing stuff down and looking back and seeing where I was and, how I changed for the good or the bad, and try to adjust that. So.
No, it's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. That's what I hope. I hope people take notes of that. I hope those who are listening are like, okay, I like that. If you haven't implemented that, I haven't implemented that myself. So if you haven't, maybe take Creech's advice right there. So, Coach, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for joining us here on Gym Session and being willing to talk to us. And we're looking forward to checking out this program more and more throughout the season, and just kind of seeing how you guys improve throughout the course of the year. And then obviously, hopefully it extends further past that. You know what I mean? So thank you so much. And just want to say thanks again, and we'll be talking to you soon, man.
I appreciate having me on. I appreciate what you and all the guys do for high school sports. It's huge. It's monumental, especially in the social media days. I go to you guys for everything, just because I know you guys are going to have it up to date. So appreciate what you do, and I appreciate having me on, and I always enjoy our conversation. So appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. For those who are listening, make sure you're following our channels, and we'll be coming to you next week with another one. Take care.